right, we have another evening of technology not working right. So here I am with my phone. So we're going to talk about slope and rate of change here. Slope is the steepness of a line. And this is where we use the letter M. And might be hopefully familiar to some of you. And you may have heard the words rise over run. Or you may have heard change in y over the change of an x. And if you've seen a symbol, you probably have seen like a triangle with that. And it's because the triangle means change. So the change of y and the change of x, or you've got arrows for rise over run. Or we can talk about vertical and horizontal. And here is the formula that we're going to be using here today. So let's start out with the four kinds of graphs that we have. You have a kind of line this way, and this is a positive slope. This one is a negative slope. And then the one that is horizontal is called a zero slope. And then our last one, which is a vertical line, is called undefined, or some people may call it a no slope, which is fine as well. So these are our four kinds of lines that we're going to deal with here. Positive slopes, negative slopes, zero slopes, and undefined or a no slope. All right, so we've got two ways to find the slope. First way is counting on a graph. So we've got a line right here that we're going to figure out the slope of that line. And if we can think about this, when you're doing a line, you want to use rise over run. So you're going to find two distinct points, and you're going to figure out how far you need to rise and then how far you need to run. Now, if you're rising, that is in the positive direction, and if you go to the right, that is positive. If you go to the left, that will be a negative. So I'm going to start here with the origin, and I'm going to count how far do I need to go up to match up with this over here. So I need to go 1, 2, 3. So my rise over run. So my rise is 3, and my run is 1, 2. So rise over run is 3 over 2. And this is my rise going in this direction. And this is my run. So my rise was 3 and my run was 2. All right, let's try another problem like that with my rise over run. All right, so example number 2 here. Notice I've got a point right here, and then I've got another point right over here. I need to figure out how far do I need to rise and how far do I need to run. So rise over run. So my rise in this case is going to be 1, 2, 3. Because notice this is matched up right here. Some of you may need to do a dotted line to kind of keep you on track. So I need to go 1, 2, 3 is my rise, and now I need to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice though, I went in the negative direction. This way is where my negative numbers are. So that is going to be a negative 5. Now, I can put that negative in the very front of that fraction. I can put that negative at the top of that fraction, because if I was to change this to a decimal, it's going to be the same number regardless of what it is. So that negative can go on the very bottom, it can go out in the very front, or it can go on the top, because all of these mean the same thing. My slope in this case will be negative 3/5. All right, the third example here. All right, notice you need to find two distinct points. So I'm going to pick a point right here, and I'm going to pick this point over here. And let's talk about our rise over run. Our rise in this case, we don't have to go up any. But with the 2 points that I picked, I need to go 1, 2. And 0 divided by 2 is 0. So this is a zero slope. A horizontal line is a zero slope. And you can remember that with the letter Z, there are 2 horizontal lines in the letter Z. So there is a horizontal slope. All right. Example 2 here is by using the formula. So M equals, remember M stands for slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you're going to be given 2 points, so 5, 7 to 7, 10. What your first step needs to be is to label your points. And when I'm talking about labeling your points, you need to label your points as x1, y1, and this will be x2, y2. So x1 and y1 goes with the first point, and x2 and y2 go with the second point. Because once you have them labeled, you're going to plug them into this formula right over here. So it starts out with y2. Y2 in this case will be 10 minus y1, which in this case is 7, over x2, which will be 7, minus x1, which will be 5. Now you're just going to work on the top part. 10 minus 7 is 3, and then 7 minus 5 is 2. So your slope is 3 over 2. All right, let's do some more examples with this. So we have -3 and 4 and 2, -3. So we're going to use our slope formula, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So label your points first. So we have x1, y1, x2, and y2. All right, we're going to plug those numbers into this formula here. So we're going to start out with y2, which is -3, minus y1 is 4 over x2 is 2 minus, notice x1 is a -3 in this case. So we're going to do a minus a -3. Now I'm hoping that you remember a minus a negative, we need to change that to a plus. So now on the bottom we have 2 plus 3. And let's just go ahead and work that out. 2 plus 3 is 5. On the top we have -3 minus 4. The signs are the same, so we're going to add them and keep it as a negative. So -7 over 5 is going to be your slope. All right, let's do example number 6 here. We're going to start out by labeling our points. So x1, y1, x2, and y2. I'm going to rewrite my formula here. The more often you write your formula, the easier it's going to be for you to memorize that formula, because you do have to have it memorized. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So your y2 value is 8 minus your y1 value is 6 over x2 is -3 minus -5, because x1 is -5. Like we just talked about, minus a negative changes to a plus. So 8 minus 6 is 2 over -3 plus 5 is 2. And you always want to reduce, so 2 divided by 2 is 1. So your slope in this case is 1. And some of you may want to write it as 1 over 1, and that's fine too. All right, let's go with number 7 here. So if I want to write down my formula again, I'm going to have M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You want to label the top of your points, x1, y1, x2, y2. And then we're going to plug those numbers into your formula here. y2 will be 6, and y1 is 6 over x2 is -3 minus x1 is 8. So 6 minus 6 is 0 over -3 minus 8 will give you a -11. And 0 divided by -11 is 0. So we have a 0 slope in this problem. All right, let's do example number 8 here. So we're going to start out by labeling our points. So x1, y1, x2 minus x1. You want to label the top of your points, x1, y1, x2, y2. And then we're going to plug those numbers into your formula here. y2 will be 6, and y1 is 6 over x2 is -3 minus x1 is 8. So 6 minus 6 is 0 over -3 minus 8 will give you a -11. And 0 divided by -11 is 0. So we have a 0 slope in this problem. All right. Number 8, we're going to rewrite that formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Label my points, x1, y1, x2, y2. All right. Taking my x2 value, my y2 value is 3, minus my y1 is 7, over x2 is negative 4, minus, and x1 is negative 4. So minus and negative changes. So 3 minus 7 is negative 4, and negative 4 plus 4 is 0. Now, when you have 0 in the denominator, you cannot divide that. So this answer is undefined. We cannot do that. So this slope is vertical. So your line would look like a vertical. It would be vertical. Notice, when it's a 0 slope, the 0 is on the top. When it's undefined slope, the 0 is on the bottom. That is important for you to remember. And let's do the last example here. I'm going to start out by labeling my points, x1, y1, and x2, y2. I'm going to rewrite my formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Y2 is going to be 4, minus y1 is 8, x2 is 0, and x1 is 6, so minus 6. 4 minus 8 is negative 4, and 0 minus 6 is negative 6. Now, we can reduce this one. First of all, a negative divided by a negative will be a positive. And notice we got 4 and 6. Both of those can be reduced by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So your answer will be 2/3. And I'm going to tell you, you always have to have your slope in simplest form. You always have to reduce your slope. So always reduce your slope. And your calculator that you've pinned on the bottom of your computer, your Chromebook, will reduce fractions, and we can talk about that in class.